Joining us on the broadcast is Mr. Mukesh Khetarpal, brother of Second Lieutenant Arun Khetarpal. Sir, appreciate you joining us. It's an honor to have you here. A big question, and the first question is, what is your earliest memory of Lieutenant Arun Khetarpal? Why did he want to join the army?
My brother Arun was 1 year older to me, and so we were, right from early childhood, we were together. My father was in the army, and then later on we went off to a boarding school, Lawrence School, Sanaa, from where after school he joined the NDA. So my memory of Arun, of course, goes back to the time when we were perhaps to the age when we were maybe 4 or 5. But as far as his interest to join the armed forces, my father was an army officer. We are, 3 generations connected with the armed forces. My great-grandfather served in the armed forces, my grandfather, and my father, of course. So my father was from the Corps of Engineers, and he retired as a brigadier. So in those days, the parents used to decide which profession the child should go to. So since he was from the Corps of Engineers, my father decided that one son will join the armed forces and the other son will become the engineer. My brother was the more intelligent between the two of us, and so my father thought that he should become the engineer and I should join the armed forces. It's just that twist of, destiny took us quite conversely. I ended up being the engineer and my brother ended up joined the armed forces.
Sir, can you also help us understand why Lieutenant Khetarpal's role in the Battle of Basantar was crucial in stopping Pakistan's only breakthrough?
Okay, let me start from a little before. See, after the Indian Military Academy, my brother was fortunate to get selected to join the Pune Horse, which is an regiment which is one of the most decorated regiments of the Indian Army. And Pune Horse is from the Armored Corps, and so they operate tanks. Now, when my brother first joined the Pune Horse, there was something known as a dining-in ceremony. Dining-in ceremony is that they, all the officers of the regiment have a sit-down dinner, and then they toast raise a toast for the various heroic deeds that the regiment has gone through. So one by one, everyone raises a toast, to the war that we fought in the Middle East, the war that we fought in 65, the war we fought, and all the various, awards that the regiment has got, because you go to the regiment, it's full of awards. So finally, it is left on the young man to raise the toast. In this case, Arun was the last person, and a toast means that you have it's kind of a little shot of alcohol. So after several shots, Arun was asking, Arun, now what does the toast that you want to raise? So Arun raised his glass and he says, I raise a toast to the first Param Vir Chakra winner of Pune Horse, Colonel Khetarpal. Colonel Khetarpal was the commanding officer of the regiment in 1965. He died in battle and he got the Param Vir Chakra. So when he raised that toast, everyone said, yeah. So people thought it's over. But then Arun said, no, but I want to raise a second toast. So everyone started wondering, now what is this young man going to say? So he says, I raise a second toast to the second Param Vir Chakra of Pune Horse, Second Lieutenant Arun Khetarpal. Now, can you imagine? This happened sometime in the month of July 1971. There was no sign of war happening. The war happened 6 months later. It happened in the month of December. But here was this young man, who said, and what he said happened for him. So just to tell you that perhaps this was a thought that was deep in his heart and it came out at that moment.
So thank you for sharing that. All right. No, sir, I will not abandon my tank. My main gun is still working. These words, do echo and indicate what a brave heart he was. Do you have any stories of bravery that, we don't know about, or something that you would like to share?
There are small instances, but, I remember as a child, we were faced with various challenges, and it was Arun, as a young person, since he was elder to me by a year, he would hold my little finger and help us to overcome those challenges. I remember instance that one day we used to study, before we went to Sanar boarding school, we used to study in St. Columbus School in Delhi, and the car pickup didn't turn up, and our house was, we used to stay several kilometers away from the school. So we waited and nobody turned up. Unfortunately, there was a miscommunication of some sort. So at that point in time, my brother said, "Ki, koi baat nahi, we'll walk home." So I must have been, maybe 5 years old, and Arun must have been 6, or maybe 6 and 7. And, as we started walking, I became a little tired, and Arun said, "Nahi, abhi paas mein hi hai, thoda sa aage chalo, And somewhere down the line, when he saw that I couldn't pick up my bag, so he picked up my bag and put it on his back, and he carried both the bags, and he held my hand instead, taking me in that direction, and kept encouraging me, "Abhi paas mein hai." So eventually we reached the house, but of course when we reached the house, he was young, he burst out into tears, but he never showed me any time on the way that for a moment, he did not have the confidence to do what he was doing. He kept encouraging me. Of course, when we reached the final destination, then he kind of, broke his heart, and sobbed in my mother's arms, for doing that. But that's a small instance, I'm sure, but it's just an indication of what it is. But there is another aspect of Arun that I want to share with you. And this aspect is slightly different, which tells you about Arun's persona. Now, this happened even earlier in our life. My mother was, staying in a non-family station in Shillong. My father was posted in Nagaland. And we used to study in a school in Shillong. It was called St. Edmund School. Now, my father would come home every second, third month to visit us. And on one such visit, since he would, come after a gap of a few days, he took us to the market and he bought us some, I still remember, some very beautiful soft wool pullovers, sweaters, since Shillong is a cold climate area. So we were both, got the same kind of sweater. And the next morning, we decided that since it was a cold day, we both decided that we'll wear our sweaters to school. So we wore our sweaters and went to school. And when I came back in the evening, I had my sweater on, but Arun's sweater was not there. So my mother asked Arun, "Arun, what happened to that sweater that Papa bought you yesterday?" He said, "Oh, Mama, I left it in school." So my mother gave him a earful saying, "How can you be so careless? You don't know how expensive it is. Your Papa bought a special sweater for you." But Arun said, "No, Mama, I'll bring it tomorrow. So next morning before going to school, he told my mother again. My mother told him, Arun, don't forget to bring the sweater. He said, Mama, I'll bring it. Came back next evening, the sweater was still not there. Now this same story kept repeating itself for the next 3-4 days, until my mother realized that one day there's no point saying it because the sweater was gone. Of course, Arun had to hear a lot, on it, for having lost that sweater. Now, several years later, I was studying in IIT, and there was a dhaba just outside the wall of IIT, and we used to go to that dhaba every evening to eat some parathas and drink some coffee. So when the war occurred, it was in the papers, and I, along with 3-4 friends, went to the dhaba, and we were having our parathas and drinking coffee. And my friends were asking him, what happened, etc., etc. So I was kind of relaying the sequence of what happened and what transpired in that battle. Listening on the side, there was a young man standing there. He must have been about 24, 25 years of age. Now, we finished our paratha and we went to pay our share of the bill. I went to pay my bill, and this young man said, कि मैं आपसे पैसा नहीं लूँगा. So I said, नहीं, आप ऐसे नहीं, आप तो दुकान चलाते हैं, आपको तो पैसा लेना चाहिए. So I thought, because he heard about Arun's bravery, and that's why he's saying. He says, no, कि मैं आपसे पैसे नहीं ले सकता हूँ. आप अरुण खेतरपाल के छोटे भाई हैं? मैंने कहा, हाँ. He said, I know your brother. It became very peculiar. I said, how do you know my brother? He said that, did you study Bayun Shillong? I said, yes. Did you study in St. Edmund's School? I said, yes. Now this became very, very, peculiar. I mean, how did this young man know so much about us? So I said, ये सब आपको कैसे पता है? He said that my father was a peon in St. Edmund's School. And one day I had fever and I was crying. And your brother took off his sweater and gave it to me.
So thank you for sharing that emotional story. Do you remember the last conversation you perhaps had with your brother, sir?
I told you that when he'd gone to attend a young officer's course in Ahmednagar, and he came by train, and he was in transit in Delhi for a few hours because his connecting train was later in the evening, which was taking him to Pathankot. So he came home for a few hours. So when he came home, my father actually in 1965 was also part of one corps, and he was in that same Shakargarh area where Arun's regiment was posted in. So my mother, of course, talked to Arun and said, "Ki, beta, you're going for war, and your father's been to, a few wars. In 65, he went to war. In 1947, in Kashmir, he went to war. He fought in the Second World War against the Japanese troops in Malaysia. So, my only this thing to you is go out and fight like a lion." So my brother said, yes, mama, of course, etc., etc., So my mother had a very brave front. And then the time came to depart to the railway station, and my father, took him to the station, and my brother, me and my mother were at home. But as soon as the car left, My mother was in tears. No, so my memory is of that day when he was sitting in the car, and I, of course, was, saying that, Arun, bring back a trophy. We were trying to encourage him to do what we had. I was younger, and so that's the last memory that I have of Arun, but.
So what can young India, according to you, learn from the story of Arun Khetarpal?
No, see, Arun was my elder brother, and we were a small family, and there's a lot of pain that we as a family felt. Even now, Arun died in 71, we're in 2024, it's more than 53 years since this happened, but it's still painful to recall what happened. However, Arun, in his deed, did, what was kind of for the country, for his regiment, and he paid a heavy price for it. He died in trying to do what he did. Arun was 21 when he died. I'm 73 years old. He would have been 74. But Arun is still 21. So the fact that we are sitting here and talking about him is a source of inspiration for all the youngsters who should go out and do what they think is right, even if you have to pay for it with your life.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.